came on. So I'm going to go ahead and get started.
Okay.
All right, guys. Welcome. Thank you for coming. My name is Ed Macon. I'm with YOUniversity. On the line, we also have Nancy Poland with Educational Excellence, and she's out of Palm Beach. I'm out of Charlotte, North Carolina, but just moved up here from Palm Beach. So although we didn't know each other down there, there's, I got a lot of contacts down in Florida, and both of us work virtually throughout the country. So no matter where we are, we can always get in touch with our students or our student athletes. There's probably half of you that are on the call that are student athletes, and probably another half that are just students. But Nancy and I kind of teamed up together, and I always look for partnerships like this where it makes us more well-rounded, where if we have student athletes that come to us to be recruited or to get prepared for the process, we like to be able to send them somewhere, a reputable source that is going to take care of their needs. And one of the biggest needs for a lot of our student athletes is the educational piece, is the academics piece. Athletically, they probably train their whole lives for whatever sport they're doing, but academically, something has to give with all that training and all that preparation on the field or on the court. And unfortunately, it's usually academics. So Nancy does a great job with our athletes, and we do a pretty good job with placing those athletes and getting those athletes prepared for this process. So that's the point of tonight's call, is kind of to hit you from both sides. You got your academic and you got your athletic piece that we're going to talk about. So I won't bore you with my bio, but I will tell you that I'm a longtime coach. I coached high school for almost 10 years, and just recently came back from a professional stint overseas, and kind of got back into the high school arena specifically to get kids, to help them get into college, to help them obtain scholarships. Because if anybody's on this call understands that, especially with multiple kids, it's almost impossible to send your kid off to college without some sort of support. And you're seeing more and more every day, parents are finding sports as a way to obtain that help. So what that does is it makes the talent pool pretty deep, because now there's 3, 4, sometimes 10 times as many athletes for them to compare against and to compete against. And it makes it pretty tough, to stand out amongst the rest. And that's really what YOUniversity does. We've created a model that is kind of custom fit for each athlete, and what we do is we interview college coaches, and we get the scholarships and we get the parameters of their ideal candidate for a scholarship, and then we go and find that athlete. We don't have a database with hundreds of kids or thousands of kids. That's just not what we do. We kind of flipped the industry on its head and got back to the personal face-to-face model, and what some people would consider boutique or something like that. We don't do business outside of our community. We're really community-oriented. So I wanted to go through some things. Obviously, this is for our student athletes that are currently on the call. I wanted to go through some things with you regarding the NCAA eligibility, and this is straight from the booklet of, and I'll show you the cover so you can see, the guide for college-bound student athletes, and this is the latest one that's out. They have a couple interesting charts in here that I want you guys to see, and this is available. We give this to all of our athletes that enroll with us. So, a lot of people just don't really understand the whole difference between D1, D2, D3. And I always I always explain it in layman's terms as, you're looking at D1, the top of D1, the Alabamas, Florida State, Clemson, Mississippi State. Those are at the top of D1. You start going down, it's considered FBS schools. As you go down, you get into the FCS, which is 1AA or the old 1AA, and then Division II, and then on to Division III. And to be honest with you, each division has its high points and its low points. Just because it's a D3 school means that it's an unfit higher education. It's quite the opposite. In fact, if you go down the scale, putting Alabama at the top, and don't get mad at me for using Alabama, it's just the first thing that pops in my mind. If you use that as the top and you go down that chart, down to D2, down to D3, and you get into like Greensboro College, down to like the bottom of D3, as you go down, your academics must be higher. It's not the other way around. Your athleticism can be less, but your academics have to be higher, because what they do, they don't give out, these full ride scholarships. Everybody always talks about these full ride scholarships. That really doesn't exist for the common athlete, and that's really where we tend to shine with Athlete University, is targeting everyday people, everyday athletes, people that, they're serious about it, but, they're not athletically gifted enough where Jimbo Fisher is knocking at the front door. So that's really our target base. So as you can see on the chart that's on the screen right now, there's over 1,100 D1 to D3 schools. This is all considered NCAA. So there's over 1,100 in the country, consisting of almost 500,000 student athletes, just student athletes in those schools. So, we always look at it like, we always hear the term, "Oh, I'm D1. I'm D1." We try to educate these student athletes at the beginning that it's not all about D1. In fact, it shouldn't even be on your mind. What our model is we want to kind of build from the bottom up. We want to build from NAIA, from D3, and build up. So it's when you pigeonhole yourself into a D1 athlete, and you're truly not a D1 athlete both athletically and academically, then you're really setting yourself up for failure. And that's what we're trying to educate as much as we can, before it's too late. I'm going to go to the next chart, and this just gives you an idea of how many athletes are currently for each sport in high school. So there's over half million in basketball, both men's and women's, 1 million kids in football. And as you go down the list, it shows how many of these athletes are going to be student athletes at the NCAA level. And you can see it's a fraction of a percent. I mean, we're talking 3.5%, 4%, 6.5% if you're lucky. It's extremely difficult to get into these NCAA schools, and we always look at it like winning the lottery. That's really what it comes down to. So we try to educate these people, and the most important thing is to be realistic. Do what you can with what you've got and make the best of it. But one of the worst things you can do is cap yourself out academically and athletically at the collegiate level, because that basically tells you you're going to be sitting on the bench for the first 2 years. You're not going to see the court. You're not going to see the field. You're going to be a practice dummy, a tackling dummy, and a lot of kids cannot handle that. It's a tough pill to swallow when you start 3 out of your 4 years in high school and you get to college and you never see the field. It's very difficult for a lot of kids. So we opened up to, we don't look past D3 or D2 or even NAIA. And a lot of people ask us, what is NAIA? National Association of Intercollegiate Athletes. It was founded by James Naismith probably a century ago. He's the founder of basketball. It opens up another 300 schools there, and it's basically another governing body of small college athletic programs, and they have a ton of scholarship opportunities, over $500,000 in scholarships. But the same rules apply. No schooling or no academics, no matter what kind of athlete you are, then you don't have the scholarship. We want to aim, all of our athletes that we get in, we aim for scholarship. Scholarship means you're going to play. Scholarship means you're going to make the most of your collegiate career, and that's really where we want our athletes to be. Okay. So a couple things that I just wanted to touch on real quick. I'm going to hand it over to Nancy. People always ask me, what are the most important things for you as a recruiter to hand off to an athlete? What's the best advice you can give? Well, I can tell you right now, the biggest thing for us is to start early. You have to start early nowadays. As you go up the chain, those D1 programs are looking at freshmen right now, if not 8th grade. I mean, they know of 8th graders. They have them on their radar. So if you're coming to us or starting this process your junior year, you are 2 years too late. And now you have to kind of play catch up, and you have to separate yourself from the pack. The fact of it is you only get one chance to do this. And I'm sure a lot of us that are on this call right now can look back and go, man, I wish I would have just done something different. I wish I would have worked harder, or I would have done this. And especially during that time, because, as a 17-year-old kid, you're not fully developed. You don't know right from wrong yet. So we try to educate that this is what you need to do nowadays. In today's recruiting world, this is the type of stuff that you need to do. Know where you fit. We kind of talked about that earlier. Know where you fit on the athletic scale and the academic scale. It does you no good to be a stud athlete and go to University of Miami and study marine biology, and you are in way over your head if you're a 2.8 student. It makes absolutely no sense to do that. So we try to kind of gear our athletes, our student athletes, to make smart decisions, not just with their athletics, but also with their academics. Be on stage. You are on stage at all times, okay? And this is something that a lot of kids don't really grasp on their own. But when they hear it from us, it's a little different. No matter if you're on the field, off the field, at school, off school, at a party, out at McDonald's, it doesn't matter. There are cameras everywhere. There's people with cell phones everywhere. You can't get away with anything now. Social media is a mess. There's kids losing scholarships left and right on social media. So we always tell our athletes, look, from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, you have to look at it like you're on stage and you're performing for everybody. And it's an all-time thing. It's not a seasonal thing. It's not anything. It's your character is based off of that. Be confident with these conversations with college coaches, but obviously not be cocky. That's important. Be coachable. We send surveys out to hundreds of coaches a month, okay? The vast majority of these surveys that come back on their ideal student athlete, the number one thing that comes back is a coachable kid. Meaning if I tell a kid to do something, I don't want him running off and showboating and doing his own thing. The coaches, they have a game plan in mind. They've been doing this for a long time. They want kids that are coachable. And you can see it in the film. When we get film for these coaches, one of the first things they ask for is an uncut game film. And that will give you an idea of what is this athlete doing during timeouts? Is he going to the bench and putting the towel over his head? Is he doing whatever and not really involved with the team. And it goes a long way with what these coaches are looking for. And probably most importantly, besides starting early, is starting with help. Get yourself a guide. The NCAA, we were talking about it before the call, they have people just on standby. It's grown so big, and there's not a lot that they can do as a governing body anymore, except for change rules. They all have to justify their income at the NCAA. So the rules are constantly moving around. The criteria is a moving target. You need a guide for this. I always say students have guidance counselors to go to. The student athletes have nobody to go to. Even the high school coaches don't know really what's going on. So get yourself educated, and that's one of the reasons why we teamed up with Nancy when she asked us to do this. First thing I asked her, what are you going to charge? And she said, no, it's free. And we're there. We want to make sure that good people, like Nancy, are surrounding people like us. We want to associate ourselves with that because she's doing a good thing for the community, and that's kind of what we're all about. And, if we felt like she was, or any of our partners were taking advantage of a situation, we would distance ourselves from that. And you should definitely, attach yourself to people like that, because they're very few. But we're out to show that good guys don't always finish last, and that's that there is some good people still out there. But with us, it's personal. For me, it's personal. I was an under-recruited athlete. I don't want to see another athlete have to go through what I went through, and there's countless other stories as well that makes it personal. But I can talk literally all day about this, and my partner's probably laughing right now. But I'm going to pass it over to Nancy, because that's really the crux of this, is the academics piece. I mean, I can scare you all day on what not to do on the athletic piece, but if you don't have the grades, I can't help you. I can't tell you how many people we turned away due to academics, and it's sad. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share or give control over to Christy and introduce Nancy Poland for Educational Excellence. The floor is yours, Nancy.